Hello and welcome to my tutorial on split toning in Lightroom. So to show you the effect of split toning a little bit better, I have here a fully edited sunset, and the only thing that's missing is split toning. What split toning does is adding color into the respective highlights or the shadows of your picture. By adding color that way with split toning, you will get a completely different look to what you would get by just adding warm or cool color in the color temperature, besides the fact that you don't have as much choice in color with the white balance slider. Split toning can be very powerful. It of course depends on the picture, but I especially like to use it in my sunset pictures to get an additional layer of contrast and additional shades of color into my picture. So let's get started with the highlights. You just want to click on this little box right here, and a color palette like this will come up. From left to right you can select different colors in the highlight tones, and from down to up you can select the saturation of the respective color. First thing I would suggest you to do is just go through all of the colors and just see which one you like. Go with a pretty high saturation so you actually see how the color looks and what it does. So in my sunset pictures I often like to add a little bit of magenta, a little bit of a pinkish tone, so I just want to fine tune the color here. Of course you can choose any color you like. I sometimes even add blues or oranges, it's really up to you. But for this picture, just to show you, I'm gonna choose a pretty pinkish, more towards the red color here, and then I'm gonna go down with the saturation slider. You could do that by either just dragging it up or down, but you might change the color a slight bit. So once you have your color figured out, I would suggest you just to go to the saturation slider and then adjust your saturation of the color and just go with whatever works best. So you don't want to overdo that, otherwise it looks completely unnatural, but you also want a little bit more than just a few percent so you can actually see the difference. It really depends once again on your picture how much saturation works the best. So let's just see here for this photo, that's definitely too much. 30 is still kind of a bit too much. I think around 26, 28 works pretty well here. Let's just see the before and after. Here's at 0% and here's at 28%. So you really get an additional color to your photo, and it complexifies everything and it makes everything more interesting, and I really like that look. And this balance slider right here, you can play around with that, and that pretty much changes kind of the saturation as well, how prominent the color actually is. So an additional step of saturation kind of. You can play around with that, but usually I really don't find this to have that big of a difference compared to the saturation right here. So I usually just leave that at 0 and just choose how much color I actually want in the picture by just adding the right amount of saturation. The last thing we have is shadows. Shadows does the exact same thing as highlights, just with the shadow parts. A thing that you have to know is that even the highlights, for example, if I go here up in saturation so you can actually see it, it will not just add color in the very bright parts, but just more color in the bright parts rather than the dark parts, and in the medium bright parts it will add more color than in the dark parts. So it really does not add color very evenly to your picture, which is a really great thing because it complexifies everything and it doesn't make it so dull and so even. And shadows will pretty much do the same thing as highlights. For example, if I show you here, you will get a lot more color into the actual dark parts than in the bright parts. And if I reset the saturation of the highlight slider, you should be able to see that even more. For example, here the color changes very little in this very bright spot compared to the rest, to the foreground. Of course that's way too much, but just wanted to show you so you can actually visualize on what it does. So I've set the highlight slider back to where we were before, and I reset the shadow slider. So let's go into the shadows and just open that here. It's really not something I use as much as the highlights because I often find it to be a little bit more harsh, and I often like color to be in the highlights more than in the shadows because of course the color is coming from the light and not from the shadow part, so it looks way more natural. However, there are some times where I do add some color in addition to the highlights also in the shadows, so you definitely can play around with that as well. But once again, I really don't use it as much, nearly as much as the highlight slider. So let's say I wanted to add a little bit of green here to kind of give even more contrast between the foreground and the sky. So let's just try and add just a little bit of saturation so it doesn't look way over the top. And I mean between 0 and 10%. Personally, I like the 0 without any shadow adjustment in the split toning even better, but just to show you as an example how it may be used. So let's just stick with that because we're making a tutorial about split toning. So here would be before any split toning and here's after, so you can see the whole picture looks way more colorful, way more interesting, and it really does make the picture seem better overall. And of course in this picture the most of that comes from the highlights. So let's go to some other pictures where I'm just gonna show you the difference between before and after without actually just adjusting to everything. These are all pictures that I've already edited and now I just want to show you the before and after. Here would be this sunset picture without any split toning, and here would be after. So you can see I've added a little bit of magenta, a little bit of warmth in the picture, and I really like that look way better than before. Then let's go to another one. This is not really a sunset picture, just kind of a little bit later in the day, and I really warmed the whole scene up. Here would be before and here's after, so you can see I just emphasized the warm mood of the lights and everything. Then let's go to yet another example. Here is a sunset, another sunset, this time shot from a mountain into the valley, and here would be before and here's after, just kind of warming up the whole scene in this case. Another one here, also a sunset picture. I'm gonna show you some other non-sunset pictures a little bit later, but here would be before and here's after. Here I've added quite a lot, especially in the highlights, and it makes everything much more warm, and I've also added a little bit of magenta, and I really just like this look. It's way more colorful, but of course depending on how you like to edit your photos, you of course not necessarily have to add that much. My editing style is really just kind of heavy, and I really like this very vibrant and very kind of in your face look. So let's go here to another picture. So this is a very artistic picture, really just a winterscape, and here would be before and here's after. So I really just added a little bit of magenta, a little bit of purple here in this shot, that it complexifies the light, and instead of just blue we also have a little bit of purple. Let's see, I think this is the last one that I've prepared here. This is actually a black and white picture. You can also use the split toning in black and white. It's not something I usually use that much in black and white, but this is really a winter picture, and I really looked for a way to bring over that very cold and icy mood of the picture, and I found that just adding some blues into the highlights worked really good. So here would be before. This is just pure black and white without any color, and here's just a black and white picture with some blues in the highlights. So I hope I could give you a good example on where you could use that split toning tool. It's definitely something that I play around with every single shot, even if I end up not using any. It's definitely a very easy tool and definitely a very effective tool, and I really love it. If this video helped you out, please be sure to subscribe. I make tons of videos like that. Actually, I upload one photography related video every single day of the week. And also, if you like this video and if you found it helpful, please give me a thumbs up so I can see that you actually enjoyed this video. And of course, if you did not like this video and if you did not enjoy or learn anything from the video, please give me a thumbs down so I can really see what kind of videos you like and what you don't like, so I can improve my videos in the future. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you find a way to use split toning in your editing. It really changed the way I edit my pictures. And of course, I want to wish you a great day.